The night smelled like rain and iron. By Lake Halcyon stood Maggie Alvarez, a cafeteria manager and widow whose trembling hands still dripped with water. Moments ago, she had pulled a baby from a sinking suitcase, his lips blue, his breath faint as a whisper. 6 months earlier, her only son, Louis, had died in what police called an accident. His wife, Brooke, walked away with the insurance money and a new life. Now Maggie knew the truth. Brooke had killed for money and tried to drown her own child to keep it all. Detective Grant saw an old woman in shock. But beneath Maggie's silence, something burned. She remembered the sound of the zipper tearing, the cry breaking through the wind. She thought saving that baby would end her nightmare. It didn't. At midnight, the phone rang. A cold voice said, "Bring him. Bring the money. Come alone." And Maggie went. A mother's greed. A grandmother's vow. A battle between blood and justice. The Lake and the Ledger. Stay tuned. It's coming soon. Hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss this. Let's get into the story. The heat came late that October. Maggie Alvarez stood at her kitchen window. She was 62. Her hands gripped a glass pitcher. Sweet tea inside. Ice cubes knocked against the sides. Outside, the air hung thick. Cicadas buzzed. The sound pressed into the dusk like a headache. Lake Halcyon stretched beyond her yard. The water sat flat. No breeze. Just a stillness. She poured herself a glass. Her knees ached. Arthritis. The doctor said to rest more. But Maggie worked 5 days a week at the middle school cafeteria. She couldn't afford to stop. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner. She'd scrub the counters after dinner. Same routine. Every night. Clean, sit, drink tea, go to bed. But tonight she couldn't sit. Her eyes drifted to the empty chair. The one by the window. Her son's chair. Daniel. He'd sat there every Sunday morning. Coffee in hand. Newspaper spread open. Laughing at the comics. He'd been gone 3 years now. Heart attack. 40 years old. Maggie pressed her palm against the counter. The ache in her chest came back. It always did. Some days worse than others. She sighed. Then she turned away. The cicadas grew louder. Then came another sound. Tires. Screeching. Maggie froze. She looked out the window. A silver sedan tore down the service road. Too fast. The car fishtailed. Gravel sprayed. Dust kicked up in clouds. The sedan skidded to a stop near the water's edge. Maggie set down her glass. Her heart picked up speed. The driver's door flew open. A woman stepped out. Tall, dark hair pulled back. She wore a white blouse. Wrinkled. Her face was pale. Eyes red. Maggie recognized her. Brooke. Her daughter-in-law. Daniel's wife. Maggie hadn't seen Brooke in 6 months. Not since the funeral for Daniel's father. Maggie's husband. Robert. He died 2 years after Daniel. Cancer. Brooke had stood at the graveside. Silent. Hands folded. She'd left before the reception. Now she was here. Maggie's breath caught. She moved toward the door. But Brooke didn't come to the house. She rushed to the trunk. Popped it open. Reached inside. She pulled out a brown leather suitcase. Maggie knew that suitcase. She'd bought it for Brooke and Daniel. A wedding gift. 10 years ago. Accessory, soft leather, brass buckles. Expensive. Brooke carried it toward the water. Her steps uneven. Stumbling. Maggie pushed open the screen door. Brooke? Brooke didn't answer. She stopped at the lake's edge. The suitcase hung heavy in her grip. Then she lifted it, swung it back, and hurled it into the water. The suitcase hit with a hard thud. Spray shot up. The leather case bobbed, floated, then started to sink. Maggie's stomach dropped. Brooke, what are you? But Brooke was already running. Back to the car. She slammed the door. The engine roared. Tires spun. The sedan tore back down the road. Gone. Maggie stood frozen. Her mind raced. What just happened? Then she heard it. A sound. Faint. From the water. Muffled. Her blood went cold. She kicked off her sandals. Ran. Her knees screamed. Pain shot up her legs. But she didn't stop. The grass was wet. Her bare feet slipped. She hit the mud. Kept going. The water was warm. It soaked her pants. She waded deeper. The suitcase floated 10 feet out, sinking fast. Maggie lunged. Her fingers caught the handle. She pulled. Heavy. So heavy. She dragged it toward the shore. Her arms burned. Water splashed her face. She coughed. Kept pulling. Finally, her feet found solid ground. She hauled the suitcase onto the grass. Dropped to her knees. Her hands shook. The rusted zipper. Stuck. She yanked. Once. Twice. It gave. She tore the suitcase open and froze. Inside lay a baby. A boy. Newborn. His skin was pale, blue around the lips, eyes closed. He wasn't moving. Oh my God. Maggie's voice cracked. She scooped him up. Water dripped from his tiny body. He was so small, so still. She turned him over, patted his back, gently, then harder. Nothing. Come on, baby. Come on. She pressed her ear to his chest. A heartbeat. Faint. So faint. Maggie's hands trembled. She pulled her phone from her pocket. But it worked. She dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I need an ambulance. Lake Halcyon, 442 Lakeview Road. I found a baby. He's not breathing right. Please hurry. Ma'am, is the baby conscious? No. He's blue? I don't know how long he was in the water. Stay on the line. Help is on the way. Can you perform CPR? Maggie laid the baby on the grass. She tilted his head back, covered his nose and mouth with hers. 2 gentle breaths. The baby's chest rose, fell. She pressed 2 fingers to his tiny sternum. 30 compressions. Fast. Light. Then 2 more breaths. Again. And again. The dispatcher's voice kept talking. Maggie barely heard her. Please, God, she whispered. Please. The baby's mouth twitched. Then he coughed. Water came up. Just a little. He coughed again. His chest heaved. And then he cried. A weak, raspy sound. But a cry. Maggie sobbed. Relief flooded through her. She wrapped him in her damp shirt. Held him close. He's breathing, she told the dispatcher. He's crying. Good. Keep him warm. Don't move him. Paramedics are 2 minutes out. Maggie nodded. She rocked the baby. His cries grew stronger. Sirens wailed in the distance. She looked down at his face. So small. So fragile. Who was he? Why did Brooke throw him away? Maggie's mind spun. Nothing made sense. But one thing was clear. This baby was alive. Because of her. She held him tighter. The sirens got closer. The cicadas still buzzed. The heat pressed down. And Maggie Alvarez sat in the mud, holding a stranger's child, waiting for help to arrive. The ambulance siren cut through the night. Maggie sat in the back. She held the baby wrapped in a blanket. His chest rose and fell. Steady now, but so small. The paramedic checked his oxygen. Vitals are improving. Maggie nodded. She couldn't speak. The lights of St. Luke's Regional appeared. A small hospital. Red brick. 3 stories. It served the whole county. They wheeled the baby through automatic doors. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The smell of antiseptic hit Maggie's nose. Sharp. Clean. A nurse took the baby. Disappeared through double doors. Maggie stood alone in the hallway. A doctor approached. Young. Tired eyes. Stethoscope around his neck. Ma'am, you brought him in? Yes. He's stable. Hypothermia. Some water in his lungs. We're warming him now. He'll need monitoring overnight. Maggie exhaled. Can I see him? The doctor hesitated. Are you family? I found him. His expression shifted. Professional. Guarded. I see. Someone will talk to you shortly. He walked away. Maggie's legs felt weak. She found a chair. Sat down. The plastic was cold. Hard. The waiting room smelled like old coffee. A vending machine hummed in the corner. A clock ticked on the wall. 9:43. Her wet clothes clung to her skin. Mud dried on her ankles. She waited. 15 minutes later, a woman appeared. Tall. Dark suit. Badge clipped to her belt. Mrs. Alvarez? Maggie looked up. I'm Detective Aisha Grant. I need to ask you some questions. Maggie stood. Her knees protested. Detective Grant's face was calm. Sharp eyes. She carried a notepad. Behind her stood a younger man in uniform. Broad shoulders. Crew cut. This is Officer Reed, Grant said. Reed nodded. He didn't smile. They moved to a quiet corner. Grant gestured to the chairs. Maggie sat. They did too. Grant clicked her pen. Walk me through what happened. Maggie told her. The car. Brooke. The suitcase. The water. Grant wrote quickly. Reed listened. His face didn't change. When Maggie finished, Grant looked up. You said it was dusk, and you were inside your house. Yes. How far is your house from where the car stopped? Maggie thought. Maybe 50 yards. And you're sure it was your daughter-in-law? Maggie hesitated. Yes. I know her car. I recognized her. Grant made a note. When did you last see Brooke Callahan? 6 months ago, at my husband's funeral. Have you spoken to her since? No. Rage shifted in his chair. Grant glanced at him, then back at Maggie. Mrs. Alvarez, did you see the baby before you opened the suitcase? No. Did you hear anything? Maggie paused. I heard something. From the water. That's why I went in. Grant's pen stopped. You heard a baby crying underwater? Not crying. A sound. Muffled. Reed leaned forward slightly. Grant wrote again. And the suitcase. You said it was a wedding gift? Yes. I gave it to Brooke and my son. 10 years ago. Do you have proof of that? Maggie blinked. Proof. A receipt. Photos. Anything. Maggie's chest tightened. I don't know. Maybe. Grant closed her notepad. Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. We'll be in touch. She stood. Reed followed. Maggie stayed seated. Her hands gripped the chair arms. Wait, she said. Grant turned. What happens to the baby? He's in state care for now. Social services will handle it. Can I see him? Not tonight. Only legal guardians are allowed in the NICU. Maggie's throat tightened. But I saved him. Grant's expression softened. Just barely. I understand. But there are protocols. She walked away. Reed gave Maggie a brief nod. Then they were gone. Maggie sat alone again. The fluorescent lights hummed. An hour passed. A woman in a gray blazer approached. She carried a folder. Her face was kind but professional. Mrs. Alvarez, I'm Elena Ruiz, social worker. Maggie stood. Elena sat down beside her. Opened the folder. Papers inside. Forms. Checklists. I've been assigned to the baby's case, Elena said. I understand you're the one who found him. Yes. That was very brave. Maggie's eyes stung. She blinked it away. Elena's voice stayed gentle. Right now, the baby is in temporary state custody. That means the state is responsible for his care until we locate his legal guardian. His mother threw him away. Elena nodded. I know. That's being investigated. But until charges are filed or parental rights are terminated, the process takes time. What happens to him? He'll stay in the hospital for a few days. Then if no family comes forward, he'll go to a foster home. Maggie's stomach dropped. I want to take care of him. Elena looked at her. Steady. Calm. You don't have a legal relationship with this child. I know. But I can't just... Maggie's voice broke. She stopped. Took a breath. Elena waited. Can I apply? Maggie asked. To be his caregiver. Elena's expression didn't change. There's a process. It's called kinship care. But you're not kin. I'm his grandmother. Elena frowned. Legally? His mother was married to my son. Was? He died 3 years ago. Elena made a note. I'm sorry. Silence. Then Elena spoke again. If you want to apply, you'll need to take classes. Background check. Home study. It takes weeks, sometimes months. Maggie felt the weight settle. Weeks. Months. I'll do it, she said. Elena studied her. Mrs. Alvarez, I have to ask. Can you afford this? Maggie's jaw tightened. I get by. Caring for an infant is expensive. Diapers. Formula. Concern. Doctor visits. Do you have stable income? I work at the school. Full-time? Part-time. But I have Social Security, survivor benefits, and a small pension. Elena wrote something down. Okay, I'll start the paperwork. But I have to be honest. The state will look closely at your finances, your health, your age. Maggie felt the sting. I'm 62, not 90. I know, but they'll consider it. Maggie's hands curled into fists. She forced them open. Elena closed the folder. I'll be in touch. For now, get some rest. She stood. Walked away. Maggie sat back in the plastic chair. The clock read 11:15. A nurse appeared, older. Gray hair pulled into a bun. Soft eyes. Mrs. Alvarez? Maggie looked up. I'm Eloise Carter. I've been with the baby tonight. Maggie stood quickly. How is he? He's doing well. Temperature's up. Lungs are clear. Eloise smiled. You saved his life. You know that, right? Maggie's eyes filled. She nodded. Eloise reached out, touched her arm. Come with me. Just for a minute. She led Maggie down a hallway, past rooms with closed doors, to a large window. Glass. Thick. Inside was the NICU. Rows of small beds. Monitors. Tubes. Quiet. And there, in the second row, was the baby. He lay on his side, a tiny knit cap on his head, wires taped to his chest. His eyes were closed. Maggie pressed her hand to the glass. Eloise stood beside her. He's strong. You can see it. Maggie couldn't speak. Eloise's voice dropped. Gentle, I'm not supposed to say this, but if you're serious about caring for him, start now. Learn everything. Warming techniques, feeding schedules, how to soothe him. Because when the time comes, you'll need to be ready. Maggie turned to her. Thank you. Eloise nodded. I'll help you. When I can. She left Maggie at the window. Maggie stood there, watching the baby breathe. Footsteps echoed behind her. Detective Grant appeared again. She held a clear plastic bag. Inside was the brown leather suitcase. Wow, wet. Stained. This is evidence now, Grant said. We'll need to keep it. Maggie stared at the bag, at the suitcase that almost killed him. Mrs. Alvarez, I need to be clear. Do not contact Brooke Callahan. Do you understand? Maggie's voice came out flat. Yes. If she reaches out to you, call me immediately. Grant handed her a card. My number. Maggie took it. Grant's eyes stayed on her. You did the right thing tonight. But this is a criminal investigation now. Stay out of it. She walked away. The plastic bag swung at her side. Maggie looked back at the baby. He stirred. Just a little. Her heart ached. She didn't go home that night. She sat in the waiting room until dawn. At some point, Pastor Bill Monroe arrived. He was 70. White hair, kind face. He'd known her for 30 years. He sat beside her, said nothing at first. Then he prayed. Quiet, simple. Lord, guide this woman. Give her strength. Protect this child. Amen. Maggie whispered, Amen. They sat in silence. The fluorescent lights hummed. Outside, the sky turned gray. Then pink. Morning came. But Maggie's hands still shook. Because she knew. This wasn't just about saving a baby. This was something bigger. Something she didn't understand yet. And she was already tangled in it. Detective Aisha Grant sat at her desk. The station was quiet. Late afternoon. Most officers had gone home. She opened a file. Thin. Tan folder. Typed label Alvarez, Louis R. 6 months old. Single car accident. Rainy night. County Road 14. She flipped through the pages. Police report. Photos. Skid marks on wet asphalt. A sedan wrapped around a tree. The coroner's notes, blunt force trauma. No alcohol. No drugs. Weather conditions, heavy rain. Poor visibility. Conclusion accidental. Aisha leaned back in her chair. Something didn't sit right. She pulled another file. Insurance records. Beneficiary Brooke Callahan. Payout $250,000. Date of payout 3 weeks after the crash. Aisha scanned the activity log. One large transaction. Wired to an offshore account. Cayman Islands. She wrote down the date. Circled it. Then she opened Lewis's employment file. Mid-level aerospace engineer. 15 years at the same company. Good benefits. Aquartuna Winca. Small family trust. Nothing unusual. But the money trail was clean. Too clean. Aisha picked up her phone. Dialed a number. Records. This is Janet. Hey, it's Grant. I need SMS logs. Brooke Callahan. Last 6 months. Give me the account info. Aisha rattled off the number. Elena Ruiz had provided it earlier. I'll send it over in an hour, Janet said. Thanks. Aisha hung up, stared at the file. Luis Alvarez. Dead at 43. His wife collected $250,000. And now his baby almost drowned. She tapped her pen on the desk. Something was wrong. Maggie stood in her kitchen. The sun slanted through the window. Dust motes floated in the light. She held a mug of coffee. Cold now. She hadn't touched it. Her mind kept going back. 6 months ago. Robert's funeral. The church had been full. Friends. Neighbors. Family. Brooke had stood in the second row. Black dress. Expensive. Silk, maybe. Her face had been calm. Dry. Maggie remembered thinking it was strange. No tears. After the service, Brooke had approached her. I'm sorry for your loss, Maggie. Her voice had been smooth. Practiced. Maggie had hugged her. Felt the stiffness in Brooke's shoulders. We'll be fine. Tea, Brooke had said. Soft smile. Perfect teeth. Then she'd left. Before the reception, Maggie had thought it was grief. People handled it differently. But now she wondered. Brooke had smiled. At a funeral, Maggie set down the mug. Her hands shook. She remembered something else. Brooke's purse. Designer. Red leather. Gold clasp. And her shoes. Heels. Shiny. Expensive. Louis had been dead 3 years by then. How much money did she have? Maggie's chest tightened. She walked to the living room. Opened a drawer. Pulled out an old photo album. Flipped through the pages. There. A wedding photo. Louis and Brooke. 10 years ago. They looked happy. Young. Brooke's dress was simple, off-white, lace sleeves. Louis smiled wide, his arm around her waist. Maggie traced his face with her finger. Her son. Gone. And now his wife had tried to kill his baby. Maggie closed the album. Put it back. She couldn't prove anything. But she knew. Elena Ruiz called the next morning. Mrs. Alvarez, I have an update. Maggie gripped the phone. Yes, Simon? The baby's being discharged tomorrow. He's healthy enough to leave the hospital. Maggie's heart lifted. That's good news. But he can't go home with you. Not yet. The lift stopped. Why not? You haven't completed the process. CPS protocol requires him to be placed with a licensed foster family until your paperwork is approved. Maggie sat down. Hard. How long will that take? Weeks. Maybe a month. A month? Elena's voice stayed calm. I'm sorry. I know this is difficult, but the rules exist for a reason. Maggie's throat closed. Where will he go? A foster home. I'll make sure it's a good one. Safe. Experienced. He doesn't know them. I know. Silence stretched. Mrs. Alvarez, you're doing everything right. The classes. The home study. Just keep going. You'll get there. Maggie nodded. Realized Elena couldn't see her. Okay. I'll call you tomorrow with the details. Elena hung up. Maggie stared at the phone. A foster home. Strangers. She stood. Walked to the spare bedroom. Empty. Dusty. She'd already ordered a crib. Safety latches. Outlet covers. They sat in boxes by the wall. She opened one. Pulled out a package of outlet covers. White plastic. Simple. She knelt down. Installed one in the wall socket. Then another. Her knees ached. She ignored it. She worked methodically. Every outlet. Every room. When she finished, she stood. Looked around. The house was ready. But the baby wasn't coming. That evening, the doorbell rang. Maggie opened it. 3 women stood on her porch. Church ladies. She knew them all. Mrs. Darnell. Mrs. Kim. Mrs. Lopez. Mrs. Darnell held a casserole dish. Covered in foil. We heard, she said. About the baby. Maggie's eyes stung. Thank you. Mrs. Kim stepped forward. We started a meal train. You won't have to cook for 2 weeks. Mrs. Lopez handed her a card. If you need anything, call us. Maggie took the card. Her hands trembled. Thank you, she whispered. They smiled. Warm. Kind. Mrs. Darnell handed over the casserole. Chicken and rice. Just heat it up. They left. Maggie closed the door. Stood in the hallway. Holding the warm dish. She wasn't alone. The next afternoon, a man knocked on her door. Tall. Gray hair. Military bearing. Mrs. Alvarez, I'm Tom Brennan. I live 2 houses down. Maggie nodded. She'd seen him around. Quiet man. Kept to himself. I heard what happened, Tom said. Pastor Bill mentioned you might need some help. I'm okay. Thank you. Tom shifted his weight. I installed door cameras for my daughter. Thought you might want one. Free of charge. Maggie blinked. A camera? For safety. If anyone comes around, you'll know. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Tom got to work. He drilled. Wired. Tested. 20 minutes later, a small camera hung above her front door. He showed her the app on her phone. You'll get alerts. You can see who's there. Even talk to them. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Tom. And no problem. He tipped his head. Left. Maggie closed the door. Looked at her phone. The camera feed showed her porch. Empty. She felt a little safer. That night, Maggie went to the hospital. Visiting hours were over. But Eloise Carter let her in. Just 20 minutes, Eloise whispered. Maggie nodded. She stood at the NICU window. The baby lay in his bed, eyes closed. Peaceful. His oxygen monitor glowed. Green numbers. Steady. Maggie hummed softly. An old ranchera her mother used to sing. The baby stirred. Just a little. His stats flickered upward. Eloise stood beside her. He knows your voice. Maggie's chest ached. She stayed until Eloise touched her shoulder. Time to go. Maggie left. But she came back the next night. And the night after that, every evening. 20 minutes. Standing at the window. Humming. The baby grew stronger. And so did she. Aisha Grant opened her email. Janet had sent the SMS logs. She scrolled through. Hundreds of messages. Most were mundane. Friends. Shopping reminders. Appointments. Then she saw it. A number she didn't recognize. Multiple texts in the days before Lewis's crash. She clicked. Brooke still on for Friday? Unknown, yeah. Same place. Brooke, make it look clean. Unknown always do. Aisha's pulse quickened. She ran the number through the database. Match. See? Medina Auto Repair. Owner Carlos Medina. She leaned back, stared at the screen. Make it look clean. She picked up her phone, dialed Officer Reed. Reed, I need you to run a background check. Carlos Medina. Owner of C. Medina Auto. Copy that. Aisha hung up. Opened Lewis's file again. The accident report. The photos. She studied the car. The damage. The angle of impact. It looked like he'd lost control. But what if he hadn't? What if someone made sure he did? She wrote a note. Circled Carlos Medina's name. Then she closed the file. Tomorrow she'd pay him a visit. Maggie sat in her living room. Mina late. Past midnight. The house was dark. Quiet. She held Detective Grant's card. The one she'd been given at the hospital. Her phone sat on the table. Screen dark. She wanted to call. Ask about the investigation. But Grant had said to stay out of it. Maggie set the card down. Her fear had changed. It wasn't panic anymore. It was something else. Colder. Sharper. Purpose. She didn't know what Brooke had done. Not all of it. But she knew this. Her son was dead. Her husband was dead. And that baby almost died too. Someone had to stop her. And if the police couldn't do it fast enough, Maggie would find a way. She stood, turned off the lamp. The room went dark. Outside, the cicadas buzzed. And Maggie Alvarez made a decision. She wasn't backing down. Detective Grant came to Maggie's house 2 days later. Morning. Gray sky. Rain threatened. Maggie opened the door. Grant stood on the porch. No smile. Professional. Mrs. Alvarez, may I come in? Maggie stepped aside. Grant entered. Wiped her shoes on the mat. They sat in the living room. Grant pulled out a tablet. Set it on the coffee table. I need to show you something. She tapped the screen. A video played. Black and white. Security camera footage. Timestamp in the corner. A parking lot. Supermarket. Cars coming and going. Then a silver sedan appeared. Parked. A woman got out. Tall. Dark hair. Brooke. Maggie leaned forward. The timestamp read 5:20 p.m. Grant paused the video. This is 10 minutes after you say you saw her at the lake. Maggie's breath caught. That can't be right. The store is 15 miles from your house. She couldn't have been in both places. Maggie stared at the screen. The image was clear. It was Brooke. Or someone who looked like her. Maybe the time is wrong, Maggie said. The system is synced. Checked it myself. Grant's eyes stayed on her. Steady. Watching. Maggie's mind raced. She'd seen the car. The suitcase. The way Brooke moved. Hadn't she? Mrs. Alvarez, you were inside your house. Dusk. Over 100 yards away. I know what I saw. Grant's tone softened. Just a little. You've been through a lot. Losing your husband. Your son. Grief can... I'm not making this up. I didn't say you were. Grant leaned back. But sometimes when we want something to be true, we see it. Even when it isn't. The words hit like a slap. Maggie's hands curled into fists. Are you saying I'm projecting? Grant didn't answer. She picked up the tablet. Turned it off. I'm saying we have to follow the evidence. And right now the evidence doesn't support your statement. Silence. Maggie felt something crack inside. Small, but deep. Grant stood. We're still investigating. But I need you to be honest. Is there any chance you were mistaken? Maggie looked up at her. No. Grant nodded. Slow. Okay. She walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. One more thing. Brooke Callahan is missing. Maggie's stomach dropped. Missing? Her phone's dead. Apartment cleared out. Landlord says she paid month to month. Cash. No forwarding address. When? 2 days ago. The day after the lake. Grant's eyes narrowed. If she contacts you, call me. Immediately. She left. Maggie stood in the doorway. Watched the detective's car pull away. The rain started. Cold. Steady. Maggie closed the door and stood there, alone. Elena called that afternoon. Mrs. Alvarez, we need to talk. Maggie's chest tightened. What's wrong? I reviewed your application. There are some concerns. What concerns? Elena's voice stayed gentle. Your age. Your recent bereavement. The court will consider these factors. I'm healthy. I can take care of him. I know. But there are licensed foster families with years of experience. Younger. 2-parent households. Maggie's throat closed. You're saying I won't get him? I'm saying it's not guaranteed. The court will decide based on what's best for the child. I saved his life. I know you did. And that matters. But the law looks at stability, resources, long-term care. Maggie sat down. Hard. So I did all this for nothing. No. You're still in the running. Just be prepared. Okay? Elena hung up. Maggie stared at the phone. Prepared. For what? Losing? She looked around her house. The outlet covers, the crib in the spare room, the safety latches on every cabinet. She'd done everything right. And it still might not be enough. The mail came at 3. Maggie opened the mailbox, pulled out a stack of envelopes, bills, junk, a flyer for the church bake sale, and her utilities bill. She opened it. Her eyes went to the total. $240. Last month it had been $110. She checked the breakdown. Electricity usage, way up. The space heater. She'd been running it every night. In the NICU waiting room. The hospital was cold. She needed to stay warm during those long hours at the window. Maggie's hands shook. She set the bill on the counter. $240. She did the math. If it stayed this high, she'd run through her savings in 3 months. She couldn't afford this, but she couldn't stop going to the hospital either. She folded the bill, put it in the drawer, and added it to the growing list of things she couldn't fix. The home safety inspector came the next morning. A woman, 40s. Clipboard. Efficient smile. Mrs. Alvarez, I'm Janet Reese. CPS sent me. Maggie let her in. Janet walked through the house, checked outlets, cabinets, windows. She stopped at the stairs, looked up, then at Maggie. Where's your stairgate? Maggie blinked. Stairgate? For the baby. Required by code. I didn't know. Janet made a note. You'll need to install one before final approval. She checked the spare room, looked at the crib, tested the mattress. This is good, she said. Then she opened the closet, frowned. What's this? She pointed to a box on the upper shelf. Storage. Just old clothes, Maggie said. It's too high. Needs to be secured or removed. Safety hazard. Another note. Janet finished her inspection. Stood in the hallway. You've done a lot of work, but there are still issues. I'll send you a list. You have 1 week to fix them. A week? After that, we'll schedule a follow-up. Janet left. Maggie stood in the hallway, stared at the stairs. A stairgate. How much did those cost? She didn't know. She walked to the kitchen, opened her laptop, searched. $60. Cheapest one. She added it to her cart, checked her bank balance. $783. After the gate, she'd have $723. Rent was due in 2 weeks. $600. That left $123. For food, gas, everything else. Maggie closed the laptop. Her chest hurt. That night, Maggie couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, stared at the ceiling. The house creaked. Old pipes, settling wood. Rain tapped the windows. She replayed the scene, over and over. The silver sedan, screeching tires, Brooke's silhouette, the suitcase, splash. But the timestamp said 5:20, and she'd called 911 at 5:15. 5 minutes before. Was Grant right? Had she been wrong? Maggie closed her eyes, tried to remember. The light had been dim. Dusk. The sun setting behind the trees. Brooke's face. Had she really seen it or just assumed? The car had been silver, but there were a lot of silver cars. And the suitcase. She'd recognized it. But in the fading light, could she have been mistaken? Maggie's breath quickened. What if she'd been wrong? What if she'd blamed Brooke for something she didn't do? Then who threw the baby in the lake? And why? Maggie sat up, pressed her hands to her face. She didn't know. She didn't know anything. At 2 a.m., she got out of bed, went to the garage, turned on the light. Dust floated in the air, smelled like oil and old wood. Lewis's things sat in the corner. Boxes, tools, a bicycle with a flat tire. She knelt beside a cardboard box, opened it. Inside old books, papers, a framed photo of Lewis as a kid. She lifted the photo, traced his face. Her boy. She set it aside, dug deeper. At the bottom, she found a leather-bound journal. Worn, edges frayed. She opened it. Lewis's handwriting. Neat. Small. Entries dated back years. Random thoughts. Work notes. Grocery lists. She flipped to the end. The last entry was dated 6 months ago, the day before his crash. She read the words, changed my will. For the baby. Maggie froze. For the baby. Lewis had changed his will. She read it again and again. Her hands shook. He'd known, somehow, that there was a baby, that he needed to protect him. But from what? Maggie closed the journal, held it to her chest. This wasn't an accident. Lewis had known something, and it had gotten him killed. She stood, walked back inside, turned on the kitchen light, set the journal on the table. And for the first time in days, Maggie felt something other than doubt. She felt purpose. Someone had killed her son. Someone had tried to kill that baby, and she was going to find out who. Her eyes hardened. The fear was gone. In its place, resolve. Maggie read through the night. Lewis's journal, page after page. The entry started 3 years ago, before he died. His handwriting was careful. Neat lines. Dark ink. She traced the words with her finger. March 12th. Brooke spent $600 on shoes today. Credit card. We talked about saving. She said she deserves nice things. Maybe she's right. Maggie's chest tightened. April 20. Found her going through bank statements. Asked why. She said she's just curious. But her face looked different. Nervous. Maggie turned the page. Mary. Free. She bought another purse. Designer. $800. I asked her to stop. She got angry. Said I don't trust her. June 15. I think we're in trouble. Credit card debt is up to $18,000. She won't talk about it. Maggie's hands shook. July 9th. Brooke took a pregnancy test. Positive. I told her it's a blessing. She cried. Then she said, I'm not ready. I want out. Maggie stopped breathing. Out. Brooke had wanted out. July 20th. I talked to a lawyer today. Mr. Henderson. He said I can change my will. Leave everything to the baby. Not to Brooke. I'm doing it tomorrow. July 23rd. Will is done. If something happens to me, the baby gets everything. Brooke doesn't know yet. July 24th. She found out. Screamed at me. Said I betrayed her. Then she texted, you'll regret this. The last entry. Maggie closed the journal. Her vision blurred. Lewis had known. He tried to protect his child, and then he died. Detective Grant sat at her desk. She'd been digging for 2 days. Carlos Medina's file lay open. Mechanic. Freelance. No shop. Worked out of his garage. Background checks showed gambling debt. $15,000. Owed to a local bookie. Grant scrolled through his bank records. Court order. Legal. 2 deposits caught her eye. $2,000. 4 days before Lewis's crash. $3,000. 1 week after. $5,000 total. She leaned back. Stared at the screen. Payments. For what? She opened Lewis's accident file again. Read the notes. Single car crash. Rainy night. Lost control. Brake failure suspected. But never confirmed. Grant picked up her phone. Dialed the county coroner. This is Grant. I need the Alvarez vehicle re-examined. Brake lines. That case is closed. Reopen it. Silence. I'll see what I can do. Grant hung up. Then she pulled up Carlos Medina's address. Tomorrow she'd pay him a visit. At the hospital, Eloise found Maggie. Mrs. Alvarez. Detective Grant requested a DNA test. For the baby. Maggie looked up. DNA? To confirm kinship. It's a court order. Maggie's throat tightened. When? Now. I need to swab you. And the baby. Eloise led her to a small room. White walls. Sterile smell. She opened a kit. Pulled out 2 swabs. Open your mouth. Maggie did. Eloise swabbed the inside of her cheek. Gentle. Quick. Then they went to the NICU. The baby lay sleeping. Tiny. Peaceful. Eloise swabbed his cheek too. He stirred, but didn't wake. Results take 3 days, Eloise said. Maggie nodded. 3 days. They came back in 2. Grant called Maggie directly. Mrs. Alvarez, the results are in. Maggie's heart pounded. N? 25% genetic match. He's your grandson. The words hit her. Grandson. Maggie's legs gave out. She sat down hard. Are you there? Grant's voice softened. Yes. This changes things. You have legal standing now. Elena will file the paperwork. Maggie couldn't speak. Mrs. Alvarez. Thank you, Maggie whispered. Grant hung up. Maggie sat in her kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the window. Her grandson. Lewis's son. She stood, grabbed her keys, drove to the hospital. Eloise led her into the NICU. Maggie stood at the glass, looked at the baby. Her grandson. She pressed her hand to the window. He opened his eyes, just for a moment. Dark eyes, like Lewis. Tears ran down Maggie's face. She whispered, Hector Luis Alvarez. Her voice cracked. That's your name. Hector, after my father. And Luis, after your dad. The baby blinked, then closed his eyes again. Maggie smiled through her tears. You're not alone anymore, baby. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. She stood there, watching him breathe. The NICU hummed around her. Monitors beeped softly. But all Maggie heard was her heartbeat, and all she felt was love. The phone rang at 10 p.m. Maggie picked up. Unknown number. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Female. Cold. You want the baby? Bring the money. Maggie's blood froze. Brooke. Riverside Warehouse. Old textile mill. Midnight. Come alone. Bring proof of the will transfer, or you'll never see him again. The line went dead. Maggie's hands shook. She dialed Detective Grant. Grant answered on the first ring. What happened? Maggie told her. Everything. The threat. The demand. The location. Grant's voice stayed calm. Don't go. We'll handle this. She said come alone. She won't check. Trust me. 11 p.m. The police station buzzed with activity. Grant stood in front of a whiteboard. Photos. Maps. Notes. Officer Reed. 3 tactical officers. A tech specialist with headphones. Maggie sat to the side. A small wire clipped to her collar, hidden under her jacket. Grant pointed at the map. The warehouse has 3 entrances. North. South. East. We'll cover all of them. Reed nodded. Rooftop. Sniper team. Eyes on the main floor. Grant turned to Maggie. You go in through the south door. Hands visible. No sudden moves. What if she has a gun? She probably does. That's why we'll be close. The wire picks up everything. The second she confesses, we move. Maggie's chest tightened. And Hector? He's safe. Eloise took him to a secure location. Brooke won't get near him. Maggie exhaled. Relief mixed with fear. Grant stepped closer, spoke quietly. Mrs. Alvarez, you don't have to do this. Maggie looked up. Yes, I do. Grant studied her, then nodded. Okay, let's go. The warehouse loomed in the darkness. Old brick, broken windows, graffiti on the walls. It sat near the river. Water lapped against the pilings. The air smelled like rust and mud. Maggie stood outside, alone. The tactical teams had already moved into position. Invisible, waiting. She checked her watch. 11:58. Her breath came in short bursts. The wire pressed against her skin. Cold, uncomfortable. She walked toward the south entrance. The door was open, hanging on one hinge. She stepped inside. The warehouse was massive, empty. Concrete floor, metal beams overhead. Moonlight filtered through the broken roof, cast long shadows. Her footsteps echoed. She stopped in the center, looked around. Nothing. Then a sound. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. A figure stepped from the shadows. Maggie's breath caught. Brooke, but different. Short blonde wig, black hoodie, jeans, sneakers. Her face was pale, eyes hard, like glass. She carried a small bag, slung over one shoulder. You came, as Brooke said, voice flat. Maggie's hands clenched. Where's Hector? Safe. For now. I want to see him. You will, after I get what I want. Maggie's jaw tightened. The will. Lewis changed it. Left everything to the baby. Nothing for me. Brooke's voice turned bitter. 3 years of marriage. And I got nothing. He was your husband. He was an obstacle. The words hung in the air. Maggie forced herself to stay calm. So you killed him. Brooke smiled. Cold. Sharp. I hired someone. Carlos Medina. Mechanic. Owed money. Needed cash. Brake lines are easy to tamper with. Rain helped. Made it look like an accident. Maggie's stomach turned. Brooke kept talking. Insurance paid out. $250,000. But the baby complicated things. Lewis's will said the trust goes to his child. If the baby died, I'd get everything. So you threw him in the lake. I tried. But you got in the way. Brooke's hand moved to the bag. Maggie's pulse spiked. You don't have to do this, Maggie said. I already did. Brooke pulled out a gun. Small. Black. Pointed it at Maggie. Maggie froze. Brooke's eyes narrowed. The baby was an obstacle. Just like Lewis. Just like you. Maggie's hand moved. Slow. Careful. Her fingers found the small button on her jacket. Hidden. Connected to the wire. She pressed it once. Twice. 3 times. Brooke didn't notice. Drop the bag, Brooke said. Ah, Maggie dropped it. Raised her hands. Brooke stepped closer. Gun steady. Then she smiled. You know what's funny? You actually thought you could save him. A shot cracked. Pain exploded in Maggie's shoulder. Hot. Sharp. She stumbled. Fell to her knees. The warehouse erupted. Doors slammed open. Voices shouted. Police, drop the weapon. Tactical officers flooded in. 3, 4, 5. Brooke spun. Raised the gun. Drop it. She hesitated. Then the gun fell from her hand. Clattered on the concrete. Officers swarmed her. Shoved her to the ground. Face down. Hands behind her back. Cuffs clicked. Brooke screamed. You can't prove anything. Reed knelt beside her. Pulled out a small recorder. We just did. Brooke's face went white. Grant rushed to Maggie. Knelt beside her. Medic, now. Maggie's vision blurred. Her shoulder burned. She heard footsteps. Running. Eloise appeared. Dropped her bag. Pressed a cloth to the wound. Stay with me, Maggie. You're okay. Just breathe. Maggie's eyes closed. Opened. Closed again. Sirens wailed in the distance. Eloise's voice stayed steady. Calm. You did it. She's done. You're safe. Maggie tried to speak. Couldn't. Everything went gray. Then black. She woke in an ambulance. Bright lights. Beeping machines. Eloise sat beside her, holding her hand. You're okay, Eloise said. Shoulder wound. Clean through. No major damage. Maggie's voice cracked. Hector? Safe. I promise. Maggie closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her face. Relief. Pure and overwhelming. Eloise squeezed her hand. You did good. The ambulance sped through the night, and for the first time in weeks, Maggie felt something close to peace. The surgery took 2 hours. Maggie woke to white ceiling tiles. Fluorescent lights hummed. Her shoulder throbbed. Bandaged. She'd. A doctor stood beside the bed. Aunt Young. Tired eyes. Through and through. Clean exit. You were lucky. The angle missed bone and major vessels. Maggie nodded. Her mouth felt dry. Physical therapy starts next week. 6 weeks minimum. But you'll recover fully. Thank you, she whispered. The doctor left. Maggie stared at the ceiling. Listened to the machine's beep. She was alive. Hector was safe. And Brooke was gone. The trial moved fast. Prosecutor James Caldwell was efficient. Mid-40s. Gray suit. Sharp voice. He laid out the evidence. The wire recording. Brooke's confession. Clear. Undeniable. Text messages between Brooke and Carlos Medina. Payment records. Bank transfers. Lewis's journal. The amended will. His final words. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder. Attempted murder. Fraud. Obstruction of justice. No possibility of parole. Maggie sat in the courtroom. Listened to the verdict. Brooke stood still. Face blank. No tears. No reaction. The judge spoke. Firm. Final. Brooke Callahan, you are sentenced to life without parole. The gavel struck. Brooke was led away. Cuffed. Silent. Maggie watched her go. She felt no satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. Justice had been served. But Lewis was still gone. The CPS hearing came 2 weeks later. A small courtroom. Wood paneling. Quiet. Judge Angela Martinez presided. 50s. Calm eyes. Reading glasses perched on her nose. Elena Ruiz presented Maggie's case. Mrs. Alvarez completed the 40-hour caregiving course. Perfect attendance. High marks. She handed documents to the judge. Background check came back clean. No criminal record. No red flags. Photos of Maggie's home. The crib. Safety gates. Outlet covers. Letters of support. From Pastor Bill. Mrs. Darnell. Tom Brennan. 12 in total. Judge Martinez read them, one by one. Then she looked at Maggie. Mrs. Alvarez, this is unusual. You're 62. You recently lost your husband and son, and you have limited income. Maggie's hands gripped the armrests. But, the judge continued, your dedication is compelling. You saved this child's life. You've done everything asked of you. And the DNA confirms kinship. She set down the papers. I'm granting temporary custody. 6 months. During that time, CPS will conduct monthly home visits. If all goes well, we'll reconvene for permanent custody. Maggie's chest loosened. Thank you, Your Honor. The judge smiled. Just a little. Take care of him. Eloise came to Maggie's house the next day. She carried a bag. Supplies, bottles, diapers. a small blanket. Okay, Eloise said. Let's get you ready. They sat in the living room. Sunlight streamed through the window. Eloise showed her how to hold a bottle. The angle. The pace. He'll drink fast, but you have to burp him every 2 ounces, or he'll get gas. She demonstrated on a doll. Gentle pats on the back. Maggie practiced. Her hands felt clumsy, but she tried. Swaddling is important, Eloise said. Babies feel safe when they're wrapped tight. She folded the blanket, tucked it around the doll. Snug. Secure. Maggie watched closely, repeated the steps, over and over. By the end of the afternoon, her hands moved with more confidence. Eloise smiled. You'll do fine. Pastor Bill organized a volunteer team. Mrs. Darnell, Mrs. Kim, Mrs. Lopez, Tom Brennan, 5 others. They created a schedule, rotating shifts, help with meals, errands, night feedings. You don't have to do this alone, Pastor Bill said. Maggie's eyes stung. Thank you. We're family, he said. That's what we do. Hector came home on a Thursday. The hospital released him at 10 a.m. Amy Warnum. Eloise removed the last tube. Oxygen monitor. Heart rate sensor. Hector's chest rose and fell. Steady. Strong. He opened his eyes. Dark. Bright. And then he cried. Not a weak whimper. A full, loud wail. Everyone in the room laughed. Eloise wiped her eyes. That's the best sound in the world. Maggie held him. Close. Warm. Let's go home, baby. The drive took 30 minutes. Maggie drove 20 miles per hour. Hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Hector sat in the car seat behind her. Strapped in. Safe, Saricum. She checked the rearview mirror every 10 seconds. He was quiet. Eyes open. Looking around. Maggie hummed softly. An old lullaby. The one her mother used to sing. The road stretched ahead. Empty. Quiet. She turned onto her street. Slowed even more. Pulled into the driveway. Turned off the engine. Sat there. Breathing. She'd done it. She looked back at Hector. He blinked. Yawned. We're home, she whispered. The first week was hard. Feedings every 3 hours. Day and night. Maggie set alarms. Dragged herself out of bed. Her shoulder ached. Physical therapy twice a week. Slow progress. But she managed. Feed. Burp. Swaddle. Sleep. Repeat. Hector cried a lot. Maggie learned his sounds. Hungry cry. Tired cry. Uncomfortable cry. She adjusted. Adapted. Mrs. Darnell came on Tuesday nights. Took the midnight feeding. Tom Brennan fixed a squeaky hinge on the nursery door. Pastor Bill brought groceries every Saturday. Maggie wasn't alone. At 2 Amy Warnum. One night, Maggie sat in the rocking chair. Hector lay against her chest. Asleep. Warm. She rocked slowly. Back and forth. The house was silent. Just the creak of the chair. She looked down at him. His tiny hands. His soft hair. He looked like Louis. Same nose. Same chin. Her heart ached. But it was a good ache. This was her grandson. Her family. She kissed his forehead. I love you, baby. Hector stirred. Sighed. Settled back into sleep. Maggie kept rocking. Outside, the moon hung low. Silver light filtered through the curtains. And for the first time in years, Maggie felt whole. 6 months passed. The final hearing arrived. Same courtroom. Same judge. Elena presented the report. All home visits passed. Mrs. Alvarez has demonstrated consistent, capable care. Hector is thriving. Weight gain is excellent. Developmental milestones on track. She showed photos. Hector smiling. Sitting up. Playing with toys. Judge Martinez reviewed the documents. Nodded. Mrs. Alvarez. The court is satisfied. I'm granting permanent custody. Additionally, I'm opening an adoption pathway. If you choose to pursue it, the process is straightforward. Maggie's breath caught. Yes, I want to adopt him. The judge smiled. Then we'll proceed. Congratulations. The gavel struck. Maggie stood, legs shaking. Elena hugged her. You did it. Maggie couldn't speak. She just nodded. That evening, Maggie sat on the porch. Hector lay in her arms, wrapped in a blue blanket. The sun set behind the trees. Orange and pink streaked the sky. Cicadas buzzed. The lake shimmered in the distance. Maggie rocked gently. Hummed. Hector's eyes drooped. Sleepy. She kissed his head. You're mine now. Forever. He yawned. Tiny. Perfect. And then he smiled. Just a little, but real. Maggie's heart swelled. She looked out at the water, the place where it all started, the place where she'd pulled him from death. And now here they were, together, safe, home. The sun dipped below the horizon. The sky turned dark. But Maggie wasn't afraid, because she wasn't alone anymore. And neither was he. Maggie painted Lewis's room on a Saturday morning. Sun yellow, bright, warm. She rolled the paint carefully, covered the old blue walls. The room smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Tom Brennan installed new curtains, white with small stars. Mrs. Darnell brought a mobile. It hung above the crib, soft chimes, a lullaby when the air moved. Maggie stood in the doorway, looked around. This wasn't Lewis's room anymore. It was Hector's, and that felt right. Money stayed tight. Maggie spread bills across the kitchen table, calculator beside them, mortgage, utilities, groceries, diapers, formula. She cut where she could, switched to generic brands, turned off lights, shorter showers. Elna helped her apply for WIC, Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program. Approval came in 2 weeks. Monthly vouchers for milk, eggs, cereal. Tax season brought childcare credits. $2,000 back. Maggie cried when the check arrived. Put half in savings. Paid the overdue electric bill with the rest. It wasn't easy, but it was enough. The neighborhood rallied. Tom Brennan and 2 other veterans built a ramp. Front porch to yard. For the stroller. For when Hector got older. They worked on a Tuesday. Sawed wood. Hammered nails. Maggie brought lemonade. You don't have to do this, she said. Tom wiped his forehead. We know, but we want to. Church teens held a garage sale. Raised $300. Used it to buy a stroller. Gently used. Good wheels. Safe. They delivered it on Sunday. Tied a bow on the handle. Maggie hugged each one. Thank you, she whispered. They smiled, waved, left. Maggie stood on the porch, looked at the stroller. She wasn't raising Hector alone. The whole community was. Hector said his first word at 13 months. Gamma. Not grandma. Gamma. Maggie's heart melted. She scooped him up, kissed his cheek. That's right, baby. Gamma. He giggled. Said it again. Gamma. She called Pastor Bill. Told him. He laughed. That's beautiful. First steps came at 15 months. Hector stood in the living room. Wobbled. Hands out. Maggie knelt on the floor. 10 feet away. Come on, Hector. You can do it. He took 1 step. Then another. His face lit up. Pure joy. 3 more steps. Then he fell into her arms. Maggie caught him. Held him tight. You did it! Hector laughed. Squirmed. Wanted to try again. Maggie set him down. Watched him toddle across the rug. The same rug where Lewis used to line up Hot Wheels. Her chest ached. But it was a good ache. Lewis would have loved this. Some nights, Maggie still checked the locks. A front door, back door, windows. Twice. Sometimes 3 times. The alarm system beeped when she armed it. Red light glowing. She checked the porch camera feed. Empty street. Quiet. Then she breathed. Old habits. Hard to break. But they were fading. Slowly. Maggie kept a folder in her desk drawer. Brown manila. Thick. Inside scanned pages from Lewis's journal. Court documents. The verdict. Newspaper clippings. And a letter. Handwritten. Sealed in an envelope. For Hector. When you're ready. She'd written it 2 years ago. Updated it last year. It explained everything. Gently. Honestly. Who his father was. What happened. Why Maggie raised him. One day he'd read it. But not yet. Hector's 5th birthday arrived on a warm October day. Balloons in the yard. Cake on the table. Friends from preschool. They played games. Ate pizza. Sang happy birthday. After the party, Maggie and Hector sat on the porch. The sun set behind the trees. Orange light. Hector held a toy truck. Rolled it back and forth. Maggie spoke quietly. Hector, I want to tell you something. He looked up. Dark eyes. Serious. You had a daddy. His name was Lewis. He was my son. Hector tilted his head. Where is he? He's in heaven now. But he loved you. Very much. He fought for you. Hector thought about this. Then nodded. Okay. He went back to his truck. Maggie watched him. Her heart full. That night after Hector went to bed, Maggie stood in the hallway. A photo hung on the wall. Lewis. Age 35. Smiling. She touched the frame. We did it, she whispered. He's safe. He's loved. And he's happy. She thought she saw Louis smile back. Maybe she did. The next morning, Maggie took Hector to the lake. They walked along the shore. Hector ran ahead, chased birds, laughed. The water was calm, clear. Sunlight danced on the surface. Maggie stood at the edge, looked out. This lake had almost taken Hector from her, but it hadn't. And now it was just water. Just beauty. A place for new memories. Hector ran back, grabbed her hand. Gamma, look. He pointed at a turtle, sunbathing on a log. Maggie smiled. Beautiful, isn't it? He nodded, squeezed her hand. They stood there, watching. The lake lapped gently at the shore. And Maggie realized something. Endings could become beginnings. Pain could become purpose. And love could heal anything. She looked down at Hector. He looked up at her. Ready to go home, Udanan, she asked. Yeah, Mom. Yeah. They walked back, hand in hand. The sun rose higher. The cicadas sang. And life went on. Not perfect, but good. Very good. For those who wonder if it's too late, love doesn't have an age limit. Neither does courage. You just need to know where to look for help. And be willing to ask. Community, systems, faith. Together they create second chances for every